Alright guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode of our RPG series. We've come to the end of the year and we've hit our target of 200 subscribers by the end of the year. So I hope we keep what we've already started growing here, our little community here. And yeah, I wish you all a happy new year. I wish you all the best of the festive season, and yeah, enjoy this festive season responsibly and do all that great stuff. And then once you're done, enjoy the episodes that we're going to be releasing. So in today's episode, we are going to make our UI starts to display our inventory. So currently we've got a situation where we're able to pick up inventory, but we don't see it anywhere. So we are gonna change that in this episode. All right, so if you again enjoy this episode and you're new to this channel, or if you're returning but you haven't yet subscribed, consider subscribing. We've grown quickly over this year. We started in October, I think, when I started uploading regularly, and the growth has been remarkable. The support has been remarkable. So if you haven't yet subscribed, join the group and let's develop games together. All right, so let's get into it. The plan is that our UI that we have here, just turn it on. This UI should display our current equipped weapon, or picked up inventory. So let's go to inventory and then let's get this out. We turn that off. This is how the inventory will look at the start. Let's delete all those out. We're going to create a UI button, because we want to be able to open these guys. We want to be able to open them. We want to be able to open them when we click on them to view more information about them. So currently we can't do that. So let's just call this inventory slot. Okay, there we go. We want it just like that. Let's just remove the name. Okay, so that's our inventory slot. We can just leave one there. So let's see what we're going to do in this episode. So I've brought in a few UI elements here. You can see all these UI elements for inventory items. So since what we were talking about is that we've got a bow, so you can see we've got a few bows, and this is the most basic one. So we'll start with it. So let's look at that. That's 89. Okay, perfect. So let's go to our player controls, then the inventory, then the items, then the weapons. Let's click on that longbow. Then we're going to come here and just search 89. There we go. So we're going to give it that. It has a description, it has an item ID and everything. Perfect. So we can leave that, and then what we're going to do now is come to our inventory system and create a new script. The first script we're going to create is called the item slot. So how are we going to use this item slot? Let's just get into it here. Just give me a minute. So we've got the item slot. Let's not call it item slot. Actually, let's call it something different, because item slot doesn't make sense, but it's an inventory slot. Let's open that script up. So remember that we've renamed the script, so we've got to give it a different name here as well. So it should be inventory slot, like that. Perfect. Then let's see, do we need the start and update? We don't need the start and update, but we need a few things in here. So we need a few things in here. We're going to create let's make this realize. Okay, yeah, let's make it public because we'll reference it in another script. So public button, not custom button, but just button, Unity Engine UI. Then we're gonna say slot button. Then we're also going to say a public image. Then it'll be the icon image. Then we are going to have a private item. Remember, we created this an inventory item, and then we're going to call this the current item. Okay, that's all for our variables in here. So we're going to have a few functions in here, 3 to be particular. We're going to have a public void set slot. So this is now how we're going to set the slot. It's going to have an argument of item. So we're going to be setting up the item. So we're going to say the current item will be equal to item. Then we're going to say the icon image, then dot sprite is going to be equal to the item dot icon. So remember, we all set icons on all those. Then the icon image dot enabled is going to be equal to true. So we're going to now enable that icon image so that we can use it to view what inventory item we have set up here. Then finally, we're going to just say slot button dot on click dot add listener. Then we're going to say, so we're giving it some on click functionality. So we're going to give it on slot click. Okay, we'll give it a different function in there which it will listen to, but that's it. So we're going to first create those 2 functions. We need another one, another public void function. It returns nothing to clear the slot. Okay, so this will not take any argument, but all it would do is just to know everything. So current item is equal to null. So in case we say destroy the item, it will come in here, will add some functionality to make that item be converted to something else. That will also be null, and then that will be false. Then the slot click, slot button dot on click dot remove all listeners. So we don't want it to be able to activate anything when it's not when it doesn't have anything. Now we're going to say private void on slot click. Okay, on slot click, and that's the one that we're going to put here as a listener on slot click. Perfect. That's it for that function. Now that function is set up, let's go back to Unity and let's create a prefab that we can use every time. So we're going to get this guy, then let's add the inventory slot script to that guy, and that's the image, that's the button, and the same object as the image. All right, that's perfect. Let's go back to the inventory items, then let's create a new folder here and say slot. So this is where the prefab will go. We're going to create a prefab of this inventory slot, and then we're going to delete it from there. So we have a prefab of that slot. Now we're going to go into our inventory manager, and we're going to change some things in there. So remember, our inventory manager currently is very bare bones. this is all we have on our inventory manager right now, where we add an item and then yeah, very bare bones, but we're gonna add a few things here. So let's first add a public transform of type inventory UI parent. Okay, so want the UI parent of our inventory. Then we're also going to add a public game object of type, or a public game object type, or the name should be inventory slot prefab. Okay, then we're going to create a dictionary. So it's the first time we're using dictionaries in this series, but dictionaries are also just a collection of items. So lists are a collection of items, arrays are a collection of items, dictionary is also a collection of items, which take two parameters, a key and a value. So let me show you how that works. So we're going to say public dictionary. Then we're going to say it's going to take, our key will be the item, that guy, and then the value will be our slot. All right, like that. Then we're going to call this inventory slots. This will be equal to new dictionary of that type. Then we're going to go and say, we're going to come here and say private boolean inventory activated, and we'll set it to false. So we've got our awake function, which doesn't change, but then we're going to have a few different scripts at the bottom here. So we've got a new function. We're going to write it down. So private void populate. Let's see. We're going to say private void populate slots. So this is the function that we're going to call when we're trying to populate a slot. So it's going to take arguments of type int slot count. So we want to be able to count up to, we just want to have 15 items. Then after there are more than 15, want them to be sent to like a bag, which also will have a certain limit. Then the bag is one that can be updated by the player, like upgraded as the game goes on. Then we're also going to say dictionary that the slot slot dictionary. So we'll say slot dic like that. Then we're going now to say a for loop. So for int I is equal to 0, then I is less than slot count, then we are going to I++, so increment I. So we're going to say game object slot object is going to be equal to instantiate. So we're going to instantiate an inventory slot prefab, and then we're going to instantiate it on the parent. All right, then we are going to say inventory slot. I'm going to call that slot. Okay, is going to be equal to slot object. Okay, dot get component inventory slot. Then we're going to say now slot dot icon image dot sprite is going to be equal to, so if this is us setting up, let's do this. Let's create a new variable here and say public public sprite empty slot sprite. So we're gonna say now, right here, when we don't have anything, we want that to be equal to the empty sprite. Then we want to say slot dot icon image dot enabled is equal to true. So this is the slot that we're gonna have. Then slot dictionary, and we're gonna pass in, we're gonna say at index now is gonna be equal to slot. All right, so that will populate our empty slots. Now on our add item to inventory, we are saying, what we are saying here is if not, right, inventory so if not inventory, we created an inventory item. So if not inventory items dot contains, so saying if our inventory items do not contain the item. So right now we're saying if they do not contain the item, but what we'll do is if they do contain the item, we'll increase the number by 1. But for now, let's just go with this and then say if, so we're going to create two functions. Instead of adding like this, we're not going to do this adding, so we can remove it so that we make it more dynamic. So let's create two functions here. We're going to create a Boolean function. So private bool try add to existing slot. So if the slot already exists, we want to be able to add to it if it doesn't have anything. Then we're going to say item, let's just undo that, item, then dictionary, that guy, so slot dictionary. So we're gonna say key value pair, then we're gonna say item, then inventory slot, then we're gonna say empty slot. So this is the empty slot that we're trying to fill, is going to be equal to the slot dictionary dot first or default. So if you used link before, this is not new. Then we're gonna say s dot key is equal to null. So trying to get the place where the key doesn't have anything. Then we're going to say if the empty slot dot value is not equal to null, come on. If the slot is not equal to null, Then we're going to say empty slot dot value dot set slot, right? I'm gonna pass our item. Then we're going to say slot dictionary item. Here we're gonna pass in the item, okay, is gonna be equal to empty slot dot value. Then we're going to say return true. So else we need to return false if that isn't. So else return false. Now we are going to now say if the inventory item, you remember our add function, if it does not contain the item, we are now going to say if try add existing slots. We're going to pass the item, then we're also going to pass the inventory slots. Then if it works, we're going to return. Okay, then let's go to the else. So actually not the else, let's just, if it doesn't do anything, let's not say any else. Let's stay inside the if right here at the bottom. We're going to now put a comment here and say if we're going to say if it fails to add to that, we should create inventory slot. Okay, so now we need a function to create an inventory slot. So let's come down here and then create a new function. So we're gonna say private void create inventory slot. It's going to take an item, then it's also going to take the transform parent, and it's also going to take the dictionary type item, my inventory slot. Then we're going to say slot dictionary. So at this point, you know, we're going to be using a lot of the dictionary. Let's say game object slot object. So game object slot object is going to be equal to instantiate. We are going to say the slot prefab to the parent. Okay, then okay, so that's what we're going to do there. Then the next thing that we're going to do is say inventory slot. The slot is going to be equal to the slot object. Okay, dot get component inventory slot. Then this slot, so remember how we were setting up the empty one? We're doing the same here. The only difference is that in this case it's not no item, go to slot, then slot dot set up. We're gonna pass our item. So we're calling different functions from different places. So now inside our add here, we're gonna create the inventory slot. So we're gonna say create inventory slot, and then we're gonna give it item. Okay, Then we're gonna say inventory UI parent is this transform. Then the inventory slots is our dictionary. And once that is done, we are done with that. Let's go to Unity. Let's see what is going on. Okay, we've got a boolean that we're not using, but we're going to be using it a bit later, but not right now. So let's come to this guy, then parent holder. So let's remember what we are doing here. So we've got our parent UI transform. Then that parent UI transform, let's go to here. So we're going to look and say instantiate that on the parent. So the parent in this case is this inventory guy. All right. So let's come to the player under inventory. So let's see. This is in interaction inventory manager. We've got the UI parent. We're going to pass our inventory there. Then the slot prefab, we're going to go into item slot, go back to the player, and then drag our prefab there. Then the empty slot sprite, let's go to our GUI inside our sliced images. Then let's go to our windows. Then let's look for okay, none of these. All right, we'll use the spell slot. So let's go back to the player. So inside spell bar, you get the spell slot and pass it there. Then we're going to go to our let's turn this off. Let's see, where do we turn this off from? We turn that off. Yes, let's turn that off like that. Then let's hit play. Then when we run over, you can see it. When we interact with it, then we haven't yet set up the button for us to view this thing. So let's pause and turn it on. And then I'm pause, and you can see it there. It has been added the way we want it to be added. Okay. So now let's make this in a situation, in a way that we are able to activate our inventory by the click by pressing a button. In this case, we want to be able to press the I button. So let's see. Let me see how we're going to do this. Okay, we're going to put it in our player controller. So let's do this. We're going to come here, and then we're going to say we've got our combat movement. Let's add and say inventory. So if you've mastered how we are doing this at this point, you're good to go. We're going to use a button. Then this new action, let's just rename it to show inventory. Then we're going to come here and say the button is going to be I, so I on the keyboard, and then we're just going to save that. So save. Then we're going to go to the player controller. So the first thing we have to do first of all is remember on our chest, this instruction text must be off. Remember to turn that off, please. Turn it off. Then let's go to our player controls. Let's go to our scripts and then player controller. This should be the one. We're going to add something here. So on the void start, let's say, first of all, actually up here, let's say serialized field, not player controller, but game object. Yeah, so let's say game object inventory menu. Then on enable, we're gonna copy this. Why should we type the things that we've already done? But instead of combat, first it's going to be inventory. Then instead of dodge or sprint, we're gonna say show inventory, then performed. So let's say let's create a function. So here we've got the combat inputs region. Let's turn that off, and then let's say hashtag region, and then let's say inventory. Oh, let's say inventory. Let me do this. Inventory controls, and then a hashtag end region. So let's come here and say the private void show inventory. Let's say show hide inventory. So show and hide inventory. Okay, so we're going to say show hide inventory. It's going to be of type input. Okay, input, let's say it's going to be of type input action. I'm having a problem typing today, so let me just copy that, and let's come here. Then let's get this guy, the show hide here where it says dodge. We're going to say show hide inventory. Then we're going to copy this. Then on disable, we are just going to change this to minus. So inside the show hide inventory, we're going to say let's create a boolean at the top, so it's like a flag. So we're going to say private bool inventory open. Then we're going to say here if inventory open, then do something else, do something. So if inventory open, we're going to say inventory open is going to be equal to not inventory open. Then we're going to say inventory open or inventory menu. Let's say inventory menu is dot set active false. Then we're going to say time dot time scale is going to be equal to 1. Then we're going to say locomotion dot enabled is equal to true. We're going to enable the locomotion, then the player combat as well dot enabled is also true. So here's what we're trying to do here. Let's copy everything here. So let's copy everything here. Then we're going to now say true here. Then what we're trying to do is that when we open the inventory, the game is kind of paused. So we shouldn't be able to move around. We shouldn't be able to do any combat stuff. So we shouldn't be able to attack or do anything like that. And then, yeah, like that. So let's test this out. Let's come back here. Let's hit play. So you can see, we can see that there. We move to it. Okay, that is still working fine. We move to it, we interact with it. Then you can see we're still moving around, but when we hit this, the variable of inventory has not been assigned. Oh yes, we haven't assigned that. So let's come here to our player controller, player combat, player controller. Right there, we've got the inventory menu, and in this case, what are we turning on? Let's see, player menus. Player menus can be on, and let's see if we turn that off. Okay, so this background panel is our inventory. So the player menus can stay on, but this guy must be off. The background panel, so that when we come here, the player inventory will be set on our player controller as this background panel. Like that. So let's now hit play. Okay, we are able to move forward, backward, and then interact. Then we're able to hit I, and there we go. And now you can see we're not able to move anything, we're not able to click anything, but we're able to interact with our inventory button. So you can see it's clickable. Okay, you can see it's clickable. So that's how we are going to now be adding the inventory item. So we know that we picked up a bow, and then the next episode, what we're going to do is when we click this, we're going to put the functionality behind this button so that it displays another display above this. So more of a description of the item, what that item can do, and then if it's a weapon, we'll have equip and or destroy. Okay, so if you hit equip, it will change your currently activated weapon to that weapon. Okay, so if you enjoyed this episode, leave a like, comment, subscribe if you're new to the channel. I was recording this a bit quickly because you know, the holiday season, it's time to spend time with family. So in case I haven't explained some things nicely, I'll try to go over them again so that we can explain the dictionaries and what they do properly. I'll make some time to make a dedicated videos on these collections that we're using, so that even for people who are just beginning out on programming, they can understand what the dictionary is and why we're doing what we're doing. So in the next episode, as we look at that functionality, we're going to explain what we've done here in detail, explain the additions we've added to our script, so that we can all move at the same pace. And if you've got questions, I've always said this and I keep saying it, if you feel like you've been left behind, this is not about how quick we can make the game. It's about you guys actually learning from these videos. So if you feel like we've moved too fast, don't be afraid to actually leave a comment for me and tell me that, okay, this episode I did not understand it, and trust me, I will reach out to you and go through it with you, so that you will at the end of the day also understand it and make a different mechanic with the same kind of logic for your system. Because it's not just about learning how to make what I'm making, but to be able to make it even when you're not watching me at the end of the day. Alright guys, if you enjoyed this episode, leave a like, comment, subscribe if you're new, and yeah, I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you very much for watching.